Hi, Joey.
Oh,
All
hello.
right, let me make you host. Thank you so much for being willing to lead today.
Yeah, thanks for helping get this set up. Oh, we've got to admit people now.
Yeah, so you're host, so I'm just actually going to jump off.
And if in typical Travis fashion, if anyone is first time to the call, I'm looking at Dustin because I don't recognize. Maybe I know a Dustin, but go ahead and introduce yourself.
Me, Joey.
Okay. Which Dustin is? Oh, wait, no, I think I know.
You sent me a bunch of 3D. Yeah, that's me.
Okay, cool. Wow, that was a wild guess, but I think that stuck.
Yeah, thanks for all those 3D prints again.
Yeah, what was it that I sent you? I can't remember now.
For the Station Box Mini.
Oh, right, yeah. Oh, those were very nice. I'm still really happy with those builds. A couple people joining. I think we'll wait another minute and then maybe just kind of kick things off. Yeah, there's a nice background. Alrighty, we got a couple people in here. We can go ahead and kind of kick things off. If anyone is new to the call, definitely jump in, introduce yourself. I am Joey. I think a lot of you know me, but I'm just kind of filling in for Travis today. So we'll do a slightly different call, I guess. Should be fun. If anyone has any projects that they kind of want to share, definitely jump in there. I have a little mappers update that we can probably dig into, but I can make those fast, I can make those slow. So if anyone has other stuff to get in there, just let's hear it.
Joey, I've got some performance now work that I'm doing I can share if you're interested, or people are interested.
Yeah, I remember you did a sort of demo on something like that a while ago. I'd be curious to see what you're working on. If you want, go ahead and kind of maybe slowly ease into it. I'll keep letting people in.
You want to let people introduce themselves first?
Wait.
Hi guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Not too bad, thank you.
Yeah, if anyone is new to the call, definitely unmute yourself and introduce yourself. We'd love to kind of put some names to faces a little bit.
Let me share. So okay, I'm going to share my screen. Can you see? All right.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So this is a data cake dashboard of a system that my father-in-law have running. It's called LongView. There's about 7 sensors here. You can see there's a TVHV 110. That's an air quality sensor. There's a temperature and humidity sensor, TVHH 100. So these are sensors connected on the console, integrated with data cake. If you notice, if you look at some of these, like look at this Attic West air handler, last updated 5 hours ago. These sensors default to sending messages every hour. I'm using the default setup. So that got me wondering, like, why? Like, what's the deal? Why is it 5 hours? What's going on? So I started analyzing the data, and so what I'm doing is on the console, for any sensor, it gives you the frame up count, the frame down count, packets transferred, DCUs. If I log that every day, for example, here's my daily log. Each colored band is one sensor. This green stuff from Z to AG, that's one sensor. I log the frame up count, the frame down count, the packets transferred. I can then calculate by the frame up comparing today to yesterday, how many frames or how many messages did the sensor send? And by the packet count yesterday compared to today will tell me how many packets the network received. And so So for example, in this case, on August 1st, the frame up count was 16,676. The day before was 16,669. So it sent seven messages. The packet also, they were received. The packet transferred was 6192. The day before was 6185. Seven were received. You track that over time, and you start. So I call that packet completion percentage. What number of packets sent by the sensor were received by the network? And so what I'm doing is I'm graphing that. Here's an aggregate of the 7 sensors in that system. Of all the packets sent, how many of them were received? And you can see that when I first deployed the system in early May, it was about 100% was making it through, and then it dropped off drastically. And now it's about 13% of the packets are getting through. And so this is some of the analysis I'm doing to try to understand what's going on with my system. I've also, I'm going to show one more graph, but I'll stop for a second. Any questions, comments, suggestions?
Yeah. So all of these devices are they all reporting through one hotspot?
Yes. So yes, in this particular place, yes. This is a house in Starkville, Mississippi. There's a hotspot in the house, and there's no hotspots anywhere near that. So that's a constant. So.
Okay, sorry, one other question, and
Yep.
maybe you'll get into this, but I'm kind of curious what that success rate looks like throughout time of day, whether you're starting to see like an overheating hotspot, for instance, that might be causing stuff to drop.
Right. So let me. To be honest, Joe, it doesn't seem to be time of day. Let me go back to the Well, actually, I can't tell, right? Because I'm essentially logged every morning. I grab the data, so this is.
Yeah. Okay.
But let me show you one other graph. You could look at the. Okay, I'm open. I'm also doing another type of logging. So for every sensor, I'm sending it that comes to the console. I'll have an integration to a Google Sheet. All right, and I'm recording. This is what I'm recording. I'm recording every message that comes through. So for example, I got the time, which device it was, what hotspot it was on, RSSI, signal to noise, and so if I filter these, and then, so let me show you, for example, one of them. So then using that data, I'm also, let me do it something. Let me do this. So I'm actually comparing, so I'm taking one of the sensors, the packet completion percentage rate daily, what percentage you're getting through. Then I juxtapose that with the RSSI and SNR measurements for that sensor. And one thing I've noticed for this particular sensor, it really seems that the drop off in performance seemed to occur. The RSSI and SNR values kind of went to hell around June 6th. And that's right around when the performance dropped. It's like on this one, I'm not sure, but I'm kind of thinking something changed in the sensor that it's decreased its ability to transmit signal, and that's why fewer packets are getting through.
And it's just that sensor.
But yeah, this is one sensor. This is, yeah, just one sensor. Yeah, well, right. So if I look at some others are showing the same thing. Here's another sensor. These are water leak sensors. But what's interesting is some of the other ones aren't showing that correlation. So I'm not sure what's going on there. So I don't have conclusions here. I'm showing you kind of raw as I'm working it.
This is a ton of data you've collected, so it's pretty cool to try to start thinking about what would cause a device to sort of stop performing. But,
yes.
You know, my mind goes to like corrosion on an antenna or something like that. But
I liked Joey's idea that it could be heat related or something, or weather related in some fashion. And I saw that you had the integration that dumped everything to a Google Sheet. If you could get some kind of similar spreadsheet for all the actual transmissions, you might be able to kind of combine the two to see where it's getting lost, whether it's getting lost at the network layer or at the you know, by the integration module, or not the router for some reason, like the API, or you know what I mean. If you can use this to identify where it's actually getting lost, that might help narrow it down.
That's what I'm trying to infer that actually from this information, because like, so for example, if we go back up to like this one, let me make it bigger. So these are data points that flow through the console to my Google Sheet, and I was able to plot them. So clearly some of them are coming through at almost minus 120 RSS, minus 120 RSSI. I'm pretty sure there are some of the ones that were being sent with a poorer RSSI than that, and they didn't make it through. I'm inferring that. Right, this is only showing the ones that made it through.
One thing I would look at is, are these all coming in through a single hotspot, or are they coming through many different hotspots?
Yes, for this system, it's definitely only one hotspot because it's so far away from any other hotspot. Some of my other systems, there are multiple, but not this one.
On the chart, it does kind of look like another hotspot showed up further away, and it's just like the faster reporter or something. Like given that sort of crazy up and down gap that introduces, right. But yeah.
But I can tell, like when I so here,
yeah, you've got the same hotspot all around.
Right. So that's TBHH 107. So that's actually this one here. It's the North Cabin sensor, right? And I've logged, like, it's all restless Champagne Orca. That's the only hotspot it's hitting.
Huh, this is cool. I like this.
You know, when you scroll too fast, you could see some other sensor. Try to set a filter on a hotspot column. Just on a no. Just set a filter. Click on a hotspot. Click on the hotspot thing and just turn on the filter.
For just this one?
Yep, you see. No. There are several names there.
Yeah, all but that one, right?
Oh, like this.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, so actually, we're seeing. Hold on. So
this is a number 8. You switched on the data.
This is actually the combined. Here it is. This is okay. So there's one log getting all the data from all the TBHH 100s. From that, then I filtered just to the TBHH 107 data. So that graph you were seeing was actually based on this data here. Which
okay,
is,
in the table you have several different sensors from different locations as well.
yes.
And
yes.
if you now click on a hotspot and turn on the filter, just click on the header.
Okay.
Just the header and turn on the filter.
Okay.
Yep. Click there. You should be only getting one name, but you don't. You get several names there.
Okay.
So it means that in that particular column, you have several different values.
How much is in there if you actually deselect the Orca in that filter?
Like this. Oh, okay. You're right. My bad. I set up this.
These are back in May. Yeah.
This was
Or much earlier.
right. I deployed.
okay,
I
gotcha.
deployed it to start. I set it up in my house. You're right.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. The first couple of weeks in May, and on 5/24 is when I moved it just to. its
Okay,
final
and the
destination.
data that you showed in the table, that's just from that date when you set it up there.
Actually, no.
There was some up and down in the beginning, but it doesn't sort of attribute to all that other stuff. Yeah.
Right. So you guys are right. So 5/24, like, so here, I'm sorry, let's go to here we go. TBH. Let's go to TBH 107. Okay. Right. From 5/9 to 5/24, this was running in my house on multiple hotspots. So like the first part. On May 24th is when it was deployed, where only from May 24th on, only Restless Orca is the only hotspot it can get. Yeah.
Could the sensor be damaged itself?
That's what I wonder. I mean, it's in a house, it's inside, but yeah, yes, it.
Oh, is it within the same house as the hotspot?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be some on-device throttling due to like a low battery or something too. Like there could be a whole bunch of things on the sensor end.
Yes.
Like the power
Is
transmission level is
ADR
dropped.
turned on?
I didn't. It's in whatever the Broen default is for ADR. I didn't turn it on. Could the network have turned it on by itself?
I don't think so unless you ask it to send ADR commands.
Okay.
I could imagine it sort of over throttling down, like so dropping power, dropping. I'm actually not sure how the ADR protocols implemented for Helium, but it could be interesting. You would actually have a lot of that data. So if it changed spreading factor or something, you'd see that. I don't believe you'd see any record of trans.
Yeah, Joe, I don't think I'm not logging that the spreading factor, unfortunately.
The spreading factor. Okay. Could be an interesting one to start grabbing and just seeing.
Yeah, let me do that. Okay. And again, like kind of what you guys are talking about, what I'm worried about is I want to deploy some systems where I need like 90, I need high percentage. Like I want to deploy a system to, let's say, a vaccine refrigerator. And like if the refrigerator breaks, I can't let it go 8 hours before that data gets out, right? I need a higher percentage throughput of data.
The thing is to troubleshoot. You know, that's just my kind of thinking. To troubleshoot it, you have really two options. Change the hotspot,
Right.
then double the number, the amount of hotspots that you have at the location, which you
right.
probably can easily do with the data credit only hotspots, for example, because that one will be bothered with a bit of blockchain as well.
Right.
And then just change the sensor or try to reset the sensor. I mean, resetting a sensor is probably the easiest thing to do. I think there is a command in documentation on those Bro ones. I have a Dragino air quality sensor, and there is a certain command just to reset it. So it will basically just reset itself to kind of like default settings.
Do you have the LAQ4? Is it the LAQ4 sensor?
Yeah.
What are you getting, like high percentage of data getting through? Have you looked at that?
20 minutes. Yeah, every 20 minutes. And it's inside the fridge as well. I've put it, my friend is doing sourdough. He's got a bakery. Okay. And he's checking the temperature inside the fridge because he wasn't happy with the end result after 12 hours of curing the dough. And we realized that the fridge was getting, it has kind of automatic defrost.
Okay.
And basically whenever the defrost comes on, the temperature rises by about 1.5 to 2 degrees, which is not good for sourdough. Sourdough doesn't like that. It needs to have a constant temperature about 7 degrees for about 8 hours. So he was just, by the data that he was basically getting from the data cake, he was able to kind of tweak the settings on the actual fridge to basically get the dough right when he comes in and bakes in the morning.
So what's interesting, actually, I have a Dragino LHT65 temperature humidity sensor in a refrigerator. That I'm showing that here, and like look, you can see the variation in temperature.
Yep.
I bought a second one. I put it in, and this one is coming through at about 98% of the data. This is in my house. I have 2 hotspots in my house. About 98% of the data is getting through. I put the second Dragino sensor right next to that one, and only about 10% of the data is getting through.
I'll definitely look at it much more carefully because I've not as long as I see data every 20 minutes, I wasn't really fussed about checking the exact percentage, but I'll definitely have a look at that.
Do you have like if you have a data cake dashboard like this, like you can kind of quickly see last time something came through? Yeah, so anyway, that's like, is it the sensor? Is it the hotspot? Is it the router? Is it the Wi-Fi? Is it something else? That's what I'm.
Yeah.
It's very complex. Very complex.
I mean, you're certainly taking a great approach so far, just collecting all this data, being able to sort of visualize all that across all of your sensors. And I don't know, it's very cool to see the way you're approaching this.
Okay. I'm on Discord. I'm Danger Mike B. So if any of you all think of any great ideas, please share them with me on this journey to understand and figure this out. All right. Thanks, Joy. That's about it, y'all.
Yeah, and keep us posted as you start to sort of figure out what's going on there. I think this is going to make a great little case study. You can definitely like track down the cause in that.
Yeah.
We've had a couple other people join in. If anyone has some stuff that they want to share, definitely sort of cut in there. Otherwise, I'm going to probably show off a couple little mappers things here.
I just have a quick question. So I have HomeAssistant, and I'm trying to figure this one out. I'm trying to somehow like integrate HomeAssistant and like my Helium mapping, because like I'm just gonna throw these in my car, and I want somehow to track my car, right? Because I get the data. I just want to track my car around wherever it is in the world, right?
Mhm.
Has anybody found a solution on how to integrate it without like jumping through like 3 different like platforms? You know what I mean? Like,
Does Home Assistant have any like endpoints for asset tracking?
so
I've not used it that much.
Home Assistant's like a more of like an aggregator, like Google Home is, but for everything. Like pretty even Helium, like somebody integrated the Helium API into it. Like the issue is that it can't collect data. That's the issue. It requires somebody else. It like just
Okay.
pulls data from other things and then does commands via that, right? So like it'll pull your light sensor data and say, oh well, your lights are on, right? Okay, now I want to turn them off. So let me go turn them off, right? I can send commands. It's not a persistent database. It's not like
The
Prometheus or something.
database. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I kind of run
you-
into issues where it's like trying to set up something
You
like the
could
Tabs app.
probably. Right. So I probably wouldn't rely on like the mappers project to get that information to you. But you could still use like the mapper device.
Yeah, that's what I was planning on
And
using.
maybe like using Data Cake or something like that. I don't know if they offer any endpoints. Is that something you've come across, Mike, where like you could query their database of your device?
I haven't tried it. I understand they have an API, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other way to go might be like some folks have played around with Grafana in the mappers channel, and then they're of course pushing to a database that's getting presented in that Grafana dashboard.
Yeah.
Uh,
I just don't want like to maintain like 4 different pieces of software just to track my car
Sure.
at the end of the day, right? So
Could
Right.
you not use the
This gets
cargo
to-
integration? Or-
I do. I have cargo. That's not the issue. The issue is somehow integrating this into like I can use MQTT, but the issue is I need somewhere to store like a simple, easy thing to store my like location data. Hey, it's not. I'm gonna start with this, and then eventually I'm gonna just start getting dogs and like bikes and like God knows what. I'm just gonna attach sensors to, and then I just want that data just to be easily like massaged into my Home Assistant. It's Home Assistant's more of like a Node-RED.
Could you dump all that data into a Google Sheet and then integrate the Google Sheet into your Home Assistant?
Yeah, I've tried that to dump it in a Google Sheet. The issue with Google Sheets is that if you're pushing too much data into it, Google starts like throttling you on how much data you're pushing. And yeah, it comes the issue, but the number one thing from Google is that if you're calling API calls through all the time, they don't like that. Like they're like, please upgrade. And I don't want to upgrade and destroy my Google account at the same time, right? So
Yeah, it's kind of like what you're talking about is you just want some endpoint that you can push data to and it'll store it regardless for you, for a week or 2. And you just want to be able to query off of that, right? Like
yeah,
some bucket. Yeah.
yeah, some essentially a database I need, and the database with a nice friendly UI that
Mhm.
takes IoT data and has a great API at that.
Cool.
I might just build it myself.
I saw you were asking about that. Yeah, that could be a cool thing. I've definitely kind of come across scenarios where I just want to be able to just temporarily have an API, be able to push some data, query that data, make a little chart, whatever I'm trying to do. I feel like there's got to be a service out there that does that. But
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the
think that-
Tabs app does something like that. It gets all this data, dumps it in a database, and then just people when they query it, they just use the MapQuest API and just drops the GPS tags on it.
the map box, yeah. Pipe Dream might be a good option for you. I've used Pipe Dream a little bit for some stuff like this.
Yeah,
Um,
I might try that.
anyway, yeah, I'll keep an eye on what you're working on, because yeah, I saw you posting about that a little bit in Map. Speaking of mappers, I guess I may as well give a little bit of update just on some of the new stuff that's been happening. Let's share my screen. Here, oops, hold on. So the cool update for this week is actually not directly a mappers update, but it's the idea that mappers data is now available in Cargo. So if anyone's been working on this project, they'll remember that this has been pretty stale for a while. And so now it's using the live up-to-date from the mappers project. So if you look over here, same thing. This is not going to show the data in real time like the mappers product will, but it will show you all these little dots of where your device has been. So if you jump in and find like your specific mapper, you can sort of see your trail that you've taken. So this is like just a really helpful tool for folks out in the field trying to see what their device is doing. Being able to put a dot on the map for a specific device makes a lot of that stuff easier. So kind of in the future, we'll probably try to merge a lot more of this stuff together so that you can see your device over in the mapper side, not sort of having it bounce between different tools. But really nice update. Kent knocked this out in surprisingly a lot less code than I thought it was going to take. It's very great implementation. So happy
Joey,
to see that.
Say again, what, because I use this quite a bit. Say again, what's the new capability that wasn't there before?
Yeah, so this map was, this switch was here before, but it was showing really old data.
Okay.
And so now what we're seeing is the new mappers data set, which makes this actually useful again. So previously this thing was here, kind of a nice perk just from doing this off of the new API is that it also loads instantly when you click the switch instead of what was before. Like when you click that thing, it was either still loading the whole data set
Yes.
or still trying to figure out how to render it.
Okay.
And so now it's querying the tile server the same way that mappers does. So it's a lot faster.
Like it used to only update like every 8 hours. It would only bring a new map in, correct? Now it's real. Now
Yeah,
it's real time, right?
Yep. It's not. So on mappers, there's actually a WebSockets integration that pushes data to the browser. So as soon as that hex has been updated, it'll push some data. And that actually happens on a separate layer than the base mappers layer. Both of those get updated. One is absolutely real time. The other is a slight lag.
Okay.
So when you toggle this on, it's pretty much the real thing, but you may see like, it's hard to find examples, but yeah, so here they've gone in this spot and there hasn't been a hex rendered yet, but if I were to refresh the page, we would see that rendered in there. And strangely, if I zoom in really far, sometimes it just shows it anyway. Trying to figure out what's going on there. But, yeah, somebody's doing some new mapping in Los Angeles. It's great. Yep.
Did something change on the integration with the mappers a couple of weeks ago? But I think I need to reprogram my cube so it doesn't seem to be able to pass the GPS info into the system.
Not a few weeks ago, Mappers V2 was the only change to the actual Mappers platform. So I think you're already operating on that, right?
Right, and it started a couple of weeks ago, and I don't know. I don't think it's I need to get a little water in my case, but Sensor was running last night, picking up the GPS coordinates and passing it through, but nothing was showing up for updating the actual map on mappers. So said the most recent in that hex was 14 days old.
Interesting. Let's maybe ping me in the mappers channel. We can take a look at like the debug mode on your console.
I did notice too about the same time, at least one of the times when I was trying to, or at least the mapper was trying to connect, it kept on saying that the like join accept was completed, and it just kept on repeating that all day while it was running.
Yeah, it sounds like a device or console issue more than a mapper thing.
We can talk
Hard to
about
say.
that when you're done with whatever's going on here. I'm sorry I'm late. But I have some info on that, I think.
Okay, well, let's ease into that then. I've given my little update. The one other little plug that I'll mention is I'm trying to pull together a roadmap for mappers, and we'll also send out another mappers newsletter, which if you're not signed up for, you can find that on the Helium website. But this would hopefully paint the sort of broader picture of what I have, all of the information that I've gathered of what we're trying to do with the mappers project. So can't claim credit for this, but I think if you're into the project, this would be a cool thing to read up on. Anyway, I'll hand it over to you, Leroy, because I would be curious to hear.
Well, it's not going to be earth shattering because I don't really know what's going on. But we've had several folks in the past little while reporting lots of downlinks and slow joins. And so I fired things up yesterday to try and see what's going on. And I too am seeing multiple join requests, join accept on the console. But if I fire up my device debug output, I don't see a join accept there. I do see the join requests going from the device, but I don't see a join accept. And once I do get a join accept, then what we start to see is we start to see downlinks. We're configured for unconfirmed uplinks. So then we start seeing very consistent downlinks each and every time. If I expand that in the debug view on the console, I see what I'm seeing is a MAC command of link header request. Now, when your device joins the network, after the first or second uplink, the network will send a link header request. And what that is telling the device, it's saying, okay, here's your data rate that you sent me. But it's also trying to help the device set the proper channels so that you're not going through all 64 channels when Helium only supports a subset 8, I think it is. So you will see a couple, one or two, sometimes one, sometimes two, link header downlinks after your first or second uplink. The device is supposed to respond with an acknowledge to the network, to that message. If the device does not respond with an acknowledge, the network will keep on sending that message, that downlink, in perpetuity, I guess, because it wants a response. And what I'm seeing on my devices is I'm getting a receive window timeout. I don't know why, but I'm getting a timeout on that receive window when the device should be listening for the message from the network. It's timing out. Now I've not changed that. That's in the bowels of the runtime is where that delay time is set, I believe. My device had been humming along just fine. I've not done a lot with the network since the 2.0 cutover, so I don't know if that's part of the issue. I've sent a note to support folks, Helium, support at helium.com. I've also opened an issue against the router, which I'm suspecting maybe that's where it is and not so much the console, but I don't know. Anyway, I opened the issue against the router. And at this point,
your issue
that's
will
all
probably
I
get
know.
the attention.
Well,
Uh,
hopefully.
I've definitely seen some of that behavior that you're describing. So it's interesting. I haven't dug in on the device side. So hearing those timeouts, that makes a lot of sense. I wasn't aware that the device was supposed to acknowledge those links. That's interesting.
Right. The network will send 1 or 2 just after your first or second uplink, and it's expecting the device to acknowledge it. Now that's all done under the covers by the runtime. Your application should not have to do anything with that. Okay. And folks have also been reporting, hey, I can't send a downlink, can't send a message to my device, which is probably the same reason. So I don't know anything other than that.
I'm kind of having a downlink. I'm trying to do a downlink. Have not been able to get it to work. Not sure why. Maybe it's related.
Well, if you can fire up the debug log for your device on your terminal, and you may have to find out what your runtime's maximum debug setting is. You may have to go into the runtime and add print statements, but there somewhere down there is an on receive done callback and on receive timeout callback. If you put some print statements in there, you should see whether or not the receive is the on receive done callback is being called at all. It should be, if you've got a downlink queued, you should see that call after the next uplink. In other words, downlinks will not be sent until an uplink is received.
So I actually was having a similar issue, but it was with like discovery mode. I found out that the router that the like OU1, UI1, it's being like pinged by like almost 180K hotspots all the time. So that has issues with the opening state channels and closing state channels. So that might be the other issue where like the router, the hotspot can communicate, but it can't give the packet to the console. So it just drops connectivity at that point. So
yeah, I can talk to you guys about this a little bit if you want. I'm Pierre, by the way. I drop on this call pretty rarely, but I'm here today. I'm one of the author of Router. So what you guys are describing, and James, got very close to the issue here. A lot of this is due to issue with state channels nowadays. When the state channels were built up, they were built. We had a couple thousand hotspots. As the network grew, we started to obviously have an exponential number nowadays. And the problem is really there. We just can't, the state channel can't handle that many. So if you are, if you run your own router or go on someone else's router that has less traffic than our, production one, which is, console.helium.com, you won't see those issues at all. We're actually working actively on this. We actually have a PR in the blockchain core for this. This is, something that's state channel are very sensitive, right? Because they deal with dedicated, quote unquote, money exchange and things like that. So we want to make sure that this is well done. We're hoping to put this into staging environments end of week or early next week, and then roll out to production after this as soon as we can. But this is causing a lot of issues. Packet drop. What you were mentioning, Leroy earlier. We'll just miss the window because we're taking too long to just answer. Right? We're accumulating so much, and discovery mode is also part of that issue. It is an insane amount of traffic because it used to be, again, when we released discovery mode, I think we had like less than a third of what we have now in terms of hotspots. So now everybody that get their hotspot, first thing they do for like 3 days is discover like there's no raw. And as we add 40,000 hotspot, over 1,000 hotspot a day, well, you can imagine it creates a fair amount of traffic. So that's what we're working on, and we're well aware of the issue because we have our own kind of tracking, and we realize that all of our servers are not impacted, only your biggest production servers. And for what you were talking about earlier, also the first message will have a downlink back to the device, yes, to set the channel. If this is not acknowledged, we will attempt to send it pretty much every time because we want to make sure that the device, set on the right channel. Normally, all of that should be done on the Leroy stack. So your application, end application should really care about that. But in the end, it really can depend on if the device can support and behaves properly, obviously. Yes, I hope that kind of answers and explain kind of the pain that we have that we're seeing nowadays, I guess.
So should that was super helpful. Should the runtime, sort of going to like what Leroy was talking about, should the runtime be doing something with that downlink?
Well, normally it's supposed, and again, I am not the most LoRaWAN savvy, so forgive me for this, but normally it's supposed to kind of set a set of channels, right? And to avoid going through more than, because I think we only support some of it, but not all of it. I think that's a reasoning behind it. So we want to avoid, you kind of getting lost on another channel that we don't listen to or don't care about. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess my confusion is I generally assume the firmware that I write stays smart enough to handle that. Obviously, you can't do that for third-party stuff. But you get stuck with those downlinks kind of no matter what. And I guess given the option, I would turn them off just to reduce that network chatter.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable ask. Feel free to raise an issue about this, and yeah, I mean, we could potentially say, we'll attempt, whatever X amount of time, and if you don't acknowledge it, either your device doesn't want to support it or whatever, and it's up to the user at that point to make the decision, I guess.
Okay.
That same link adder request message is what's used when you have ADR turned on, that the network sends down the suggested data rate and radio power, etc. But again, that's only after I think the 20th uplink or something like that.
I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but yeah, we need a little bit. We need to gather a little bit of data before making better decision to kind of modify your data rate at that point, right? So sorry, don't remember the number off the top of my head, but yeah, we'll gather a few before doing that.
So Pierre, if I understand it correctly, what you're saying is that the multiple downlinks, ADR link adder downlinks we are seeing is because of the state issues that are being worked. Is that correct?
It could be multiple things. It could be that. It could be just that we're missing the window, right? The first question is, do you see that downlink on your device, right? And do you see it in time also, right? Does it get into, because, like you said, downlink only works after an uplink, you have a receive window of time. Does it make it in time? If it doesn't make it in time, I have no way of knowing this, right? The other side is like, I made an attempt, maybe I was too late, right? It's possible. Maybe the hotspot lost connection. I mean, there's a lot of things in between, right? So then the only way for me to know that you got it, and when I say you, I mean the device, is for the device to then act back and say, I got it. Let's move on. So the state channels are involved in this, right? If I take too long to answer to your uplink, then downlink has pretty much no chance of making it down. Then obviously you don't get the message, you don't hack it, and we go into that loop. Second option is just the firmware or the device is whatever's on there is just not supporting this very well. That's also another possibility, and that's very device specific, obviously.
Right. I've not seen this as an issue typically with the WSBlock or the cube cells in the past. Now,
Yeah,
there have been updates to those runtimes that we use.
yeah, I would blame
Sure.
issue number one, most likely, for sure. I just like to put out there that, the device, the device do run code that, is not always,
Right.
always perfect. I have some devices that behave very badly when they do ADR actually. But yeah, I think it's most likely a question of, the receive windows getting it or not, pretty much.
So the option is to use another router.
Yeah, run your
I
own.
guess the question is, does somebody have a router we can use to test this theory out on?
Sure. We have the staging router. I am not sure what the policy is there. I'm just running it. I'm not. I operate it. I guess I don't really, deal with who goes on there. So that request can be made to have access to that router. We obviously keeping it kind of not huge for the purpose of testing and all that. But we're doing a lot of work. We just did some hiring on the team to be able to parallelize router, because router right now is one instance, one server, and it's just won't fly for much longer in that situation.
Right. I'm sure we've got somebody here that would volunteer to run a test of, okay, here's what happens on the default router and here's what happens on the stage router, and it's bad on the default, it's good on the stage, therefore we can say this problem is.
Yeah, we have our own testing for that. We have internally, we have we're running some device that pretty much one device that kind of joins, sends a few packets, restart, join again, and then another device that's just sending packet all the time, and we get percentage of success rate, how many packets are making in and out. On staging, we're 99%. We're doing very good, and prod is outrageously bad nowadays.
Okay.
That's not no reason for me to really hide it. So that's why we're working on those things at the moment.
Okay, good.
Quick question, Pierre, quick question. So the default router is router 1, right? For like the whole network?
It is not the case anymore. No.
Okay, because I was going to say that if that was the case,
that is one thing, when we started to obviously, grow that much, one of the first steps that we did was remove OUI1 from being a default router, just simply because we could not take, because that includes any packet that you see from any other completely different LNS, right? From any other network, I should say, Senet, TTN, anything like this, right? And even if we don't take those packets, the processing power is involved to figure out that we don't want it. Connections are made, right? So that's been removed a while back. That helped for a while, literally. We took down the traffic 95%, but then then the number of hotspots exploded, and then we're just starting to hit kind of different scaling issues, which are all again good issues to have. We're very happy to be working on those, but state channels is sensitive, right? As soon as something is a bit off, I get a gajillion message with people saying, where are my data credits, right? And rightfully so. So we want to, we take our time by making those changes.
You don't want another meerkat, do you?
No, we don't.
Yeah, that's like what OU2, right? OUI or third. Yeah, I want to try to find that guy because he has an OUI that pretty sure doesn't get much traffic. And because then I was planning like a third party could technically run discovery mode, right?
Yeah,
because I was looking at the code, you just have to send a request to a hotspot, right? So if you send request
there's
to
a special channel, we I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not, but we're looking into that. We're looking at separating pretty much production and discovery.
Yeah, put on its own router. That would make
that
would help a lot.
Yeah, well, the more router we have, the better. And the reality is router also, as much as we're going to scale it and stuff, the goal was never to run the entire network on one, or even if it's a cluster. That's never been the intention, right? The intention always been that people would run you, James, as your organization, and you have your device and stuff, you would run your own router somewhere, right? Because also for might be security reason, right? You don't want me to have the keys of your devices or things like that, right?
Or snooping your packets.
Exactly. I mean, once, arguably all the packet get decrypted at the router level. So you got to make sure that the person on the other end obviously has, there's simple stuff as, in the EU, if you're in Europe, you cannot, the data, some companies are very strict, or I think it's actually a law where you can't, your data can't really leave or be stored, outside of the EU. So obviously right now we don't run servers over there. So we actually have people, if you guys are interested, his name is Paul. His handle is Disk91 on Discord. And he runs a service for creating routers and managing routers for you. So if you guys are interested in that, that's also a possibility there. Not making special advertisement for him. That's kind of the only one I know on top of my head, but I'm sure there might be others.
It just costs $900 to make your own router. So
it has a cost, it is not cheap for good reasons, right? Because in the end, all of that goes back to, the LoRaWAN, dev address you can have and things like that. And if it was, if it was $2 in OUI, everybody would have bought all the OUIs right away, and then we would have been kind of screwed. So there's a price to it. But I think reasonable in the grand scheme of things, right? And not too bad, not completely,
Another question is, this is what I didn't kind of don't understand, is there's the OUIs, right? And then there's the router's address, and you can have multiple router addresses per OUI. Like that's where I get confused of like.
It's a possibility, yes. It was built, we built this into the chain prior because we knew that we wanted to parallelize at some point. So this is just something that's not really used at the moment. I don't remember exactly what's a minor, what the hotspot is supposed to do. I think it kind of picks picks all of them, and then one can answer, but it's more for future use than right now. Right now, most OUIs are set up to have one router in them.
Okay.
But at some point, the goal would be that you could have potentially multiple one, and especially the big dream really. And when I say big dream, it's stuff that we want to work on sooner than later is have the possibility to do regional stuff, right? I mean, Leroy was talking, we were talking about, time and stuff, right? Well, there's something you can do much about it is that if your device is in China and your server is in France or in the middle of the US, there's not much you can do about that delay, right? It's just there. You'll always probably eat a couple 100 milliseconds, which for us is huge, right? That's, that's a fifth of the RX window one. Most of the time, it's not really anyway. So the goal would be to potentially, if you do have those kind of cases, to say, well, we have a list of routers right in there, and each router not only has an address but also a location, so that if my device is in China, which that because it's connected to a hotspot that's there, right? Then you can potentially orient that device to a closer server rather than rather than one that's further away.
Yeah.
You could still back up to one of those if that China server is down, but at least you save a considerable amount of time doing that. So that's also why that list is there.
That's actually pretty cool. I thought it was so that if you can't pick, it was like just a redundancy thing. If your hotspot can't find this one, let me try this one. Go down the line.
There's both. That was also, we also had that in mind, yes. It's just a smart move. Right? We made it a list because, whenever you do changes, right, it's just bigger. And especially nowadays, like everybody's going to get, it's a release. Everybody got to take in that new code. We have to make it a chain var. Then we have to push the chain var. It's not something that can happen like in a few days, like it used to back in the days now. So the more we think about the things early, the better it is, later on.
Gotcha. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, we got some kind of good exciting thing coming.
I've mostly been excited that the multiple packet purchasing has been doing better. Although I guess in production, I do see better results in staging than I do in production, which, given all you've said, makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, multi-packet has been an interesting adventure. It's a hard problem because it's all about it's trade-off, right? Because well, first, if you have to downlink, I can't wait 10 seconds to receive all the packets that you see, right? I have a window of time. I got to do this, then send a thing down back, right? So what I've done recently that probably improved a lot was if I know that there's going to be no downlinking, I don't always know that, but I can make assumption, right? I can look at the queue. Are they in the queue? Is this an uplink that requires acknowledge or not, right? I know that. So the few things where I can say, okay, well, then I can, if that's the case, I can aggregate for longer than, I think right now the default is about 400 milliseconds, a little less than the window. So it gives us time to kind of downlink. So that's been kind of the problem, is the trade-off, and people don't always understand the trade-off, right? It's kind of one or the other. Don't want to miss a window, but you want to accumulate the most packet. So anyway, so if there's no downlink, now the window is bigger. I don't remember top of my head, but we might be talking a second or so, which, in IoT world doesn't matter that much. In LoRaWAN does, but IoT is like, oh, it's fine. You get your data, 1 second later, but you get potentially, if you do want to buy all the potential copies, you'll get them all. So you should get a bit better result.
That adds even more context then. So in this scenario where we are dealing with that perpetual downlink, we're in that shorter window world all the time.
Yeah. So what I want to try and do also is at some point is we kind of separate and we're going to make more effort to do that now that we have a little more people in the team, to kind of separate the LoRaWAN world rather than the packet delivery world. When I mean packet delivery, I mean data delivery, right, to whatever integration you have behind. So I think one of the things I want to do is kind of potentially configurable different windows, right? There'll be the LoRaWAN window, where that's just kind of hard set in stone. I mean, you can change your device, but the point is you usually have about 1 to 2 seconds to do your LoRaWAN things or not. But then, nothing really stops me for still accumulating the data somewhere else, and then, provide you with that data later. And for you, the user, to set a time and say, well, I'm okay if stuff arrive 2 seconds later to my integration. And, as long as I know that the LoRaWAN work is done in time, I'm okay waiting a little more for that. Other option would be to, but I don't know if people will be more resistant to this, is to just send them as they come instead of aggregating. That's also a possibility. This is how we made, for example, recently, we made console recently. That was before 2.0, so last summer, beginning of the summer, maybe. We changed how we used to communicate with console. We used to do the same work as we did for the data, where we would aggregate and send them the full thing. We realized at first it makes the experience kind of crappy because it doesn't feel real time, right? This is why the infamous out of order packets also came from. You would always see kind of your downlink looked like it was sent before you got your uplink, which made no sense, right? The only reason is because we sent the downlink earlier than we actually aggregated the data and stuff. So that's when we started to send every single event as just one HTTP request, so that you can see it right away and the time is perfectly marked. That's also a possibility that we could do for the data. But then it's more aggregation work on the application level, right? The application level need to realize, well, this is the same packet again, but from a different hotspot. And I don't know if that's, going to fly for people or not. And, a little discussion that we can obviously have. And that could also be toggled on. It's a possibility.
I could definitely see that being weird for some stuff, but like you do have the frame count, so you have a pretty nice index of like what's expected.
You know exactly, you know exactly it's the same packet or not. That's really not too much of the issue, but some people, pointed out that some of their application have no real logic. They really just kind of ingest, right? And an ingester would be confused by that. And if you don't really have access to be able to change that, then that kind of becomes, some of those platforms online and stuff. I don't know what their deal is with, getting the packet again with different hotspot, right? Can they deal with that or not?
Right. Well, mappers will handle it just fine. So I say do it. The rest can figure it out.
No, it's, and again, all that, now that we're, dealing with more of a user than we used to, we can just change this, right? I mean, when we need the timestamp change, that was already kind of a big issue.
I remember that one.
Yeah, so we do not want to, I got PTSD from that, so I don't want to repeat. So I want to make sure, I mean, we have notes in if you guys go into code, it's funny, we have notes where the payload and the packet is actually formed to be sent to the integration. There is a no touchy on this, right? Nobody's allowed, but at some point we'll version this, right? We'll version this so that we can, get more or less data, change it or whatever. Just a lot of exciting things in the works, but the team was only to 4 of us, so we're hoping we can firepower to.
I had no idea it was 2 people.
Well, it was me for the longest. Michael joined me about 6 months ago. Oh, wait, actually more than that. I think it was last November. So actually we're getting on to a year. Goes by fast, but we just hired 2 new guys there, which are going to work. One will be solely on LoRaWAN, which I'm kind of excited about, supporting different versions, things like that. We intend to try and make update to the protocol itself also. And the other one is going to be a big scaling oriented. I talk about a horizontal scaling and stuff with James earlier. That's the kind of things that we want to look at in the near future.
Cool. Well, I promised I would end this at the hour. We've gone over because this has been very riveting. But with respect to everyone's time, unless anyone has any immediate questions for Pierre, I'll go ahead and we'll wrap things up. Give everyone the rest of the day.
Thanks, Joey.
Pierre, thanks for.
Thank you, Joey.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thanks
Pierre.
everybody.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Pierre.
Thanks for jumping in there.
Good luck with the analysis, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll let you know if I find anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Thanks, Pierre, Joey.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, no
Have a
worries.
great one.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good night, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Good one.